And thank you all for being here. So as Raymond said, we're going to talk about transitioning to freelance and UX research. This is a group that I'm still trying to figure out exactly what we're going to talk about every week. And we'll talk about that. As Raymond said, I want a feedback form of what you guys like today, what topics we want to discuss, kind of leaving this kind of free flowing and more of an open discussion of what would benefit each of us that are here today. So today's we're going to talk about the freelance strategies and challenges for those that are starting to freelance. So, oh, I must have clicked somewhere else. My mouse is not. There we go. So quick agenda, just we'll talk about what the UX Guild is, as Raymond mentioned. I'll go around and do intros, and then we'll talk about what the group is for and why we're talking about it. And then we'll end with topics for future sessions. And I don't know if you saw that on the first slide. We do have 3 sessions scheduled as of now. So October 3rd, November 1st, and December 5th. Trying to keep it consistent with the timing as well. If we hear a lot of complaints about the date and time, maybe we can adjust. But as of now, these are the 3 dates we have, and we'll adjust accordingly going into the new year. So what is the UX Guild? It's a group that Raymond has founded, and it's an amazing group that's there for a community for UX researchers, for those who are doing UX research, either at a corporation or freelance, but want to get into freelance if they're not already there. If you're already there, the Guild is great as a way to meet new clients, get your skills out there, find work for you, so you're not constantly trying to find your own clients. And if you're new to freelance, he's got a great session called How to Freelance, and it goes through the nitty-gritties of all the different steps involved in getting into freelancing and working independently and away from a corporation. At the beginning, you may be working in a corporation and taking on a couple jobs here and there, or you may be ready to jump into it fully and be 100% freelance. I put the link there. You'll get the presentation, but if you want, Raymond, if you don't mind, or Janine, if you could cut and paste it into the chat for the people who may not have the link, they may have found us on LinkedIn or Luma, and this way you can have the link directly to the UX Guild as well. So why UX, or why the UX group? Why this group instead of all the other groups that you might see and hear about out there? So this group is for aspiring freelancers. People who are thinking about getting into freelance, like we talked about. It's just something that's a thought in the back of your head. For some of you have just saw the title and thought maybe one day I could do this. Others of you might be currently transitioning into freelance, picking up a job here and there. And then also for those that are new to freelance. So you've been in this world of freelancing for less than 2 years, still getting to know the world of freelance, how it works and how it rolls. So the goals for this group, personally, from what I was planning, is talking about the pros and cons of freelancing versus working for a private corporation, the hardships or the wins and the advantages of freelancing. And my goal is to talk about various topics each month based on what you guys want to hear. So as Raymond said at the end, we will do a quick survey. And one of those things, and one of the questions on there is what topics you'd like to discuss, what would benefit you guys going forward. So the goal you can see on the screen right now, is what we talked about when Janine had posted it on Luma or LinkedIn or wherever you found this group. Wherever it was, thank you for finding it and signing up. But if you're new or experienced, how to transition, what is right for you. Learn the strategies, the roadblocks, and we can work through those together. I'm hoping we can build a repertoire. That's kind of why I had us go through the introductions. And that way we can get to know each other. We can reach out to each other for help. And hey, I've run into this roadblock. What did you do when you got to this situation? Or maybe no one else has been in that situation, and we can talk through what are some good ways to get past whatever block you're hitting or whatever success you have. It's a great way to come in and go, hey, guess what? I broke through. I got this. I want to talk about my success, my win. I want to find a way to share these things and be there for each other. So let's talk about what we wanted to talk about. I'm going to actually probably stop sharing my screen as we go through these questions so that we can at least see each other. I don't know how you've got your Zoom set up, if you can see each other's faces or not. And like I said, cameras are optional. I know some people are not in the place to share or just don't feel comfortable, and perfectly acceptable. But the first question I want to talk about is freelancing right for you? So what made, if you guys are, some of you are in freelancing. So Terry, you've been doing it for a while. Others have thought about it. So others are starting to get into it. What made you think it was right for you? What are some reasons that you wanted to get into it?
I can say I don't know. I don't think it's right for me. I tried it when I was primarily an editor, and I never got hired for anything. Like I just couldn't get picked up. I used a few different platforms and just couldn't. I never got anywhere. I don't get how it works. And when it came to the research part of it, I don't even know like how to begin with that. There's things that I would find interesting to research, but yeah, as far as where it starts. So I don't know that it's right for me.
So anyone else run into a similar situation when you first started and weren't able to get the clients? What did you do to overcome that? Any advice for Kim?
I feel like you would have to at least like not having a lot of experience, maybe have like a lot of experience with working for private corporations. Since I don't have like a lot of experience working for private corporations, I think that's like a setback. But yeah, I don't know if anyone else has like a similar experience.
I don't know if mine's similar. So I was working for private companies for, I guess, 3 decades. And for me, personality wise, I'm still not cut out for freelancing. I like steady, dependable, predictable, but me for family lifestyle thing, I started taking care of my elderly father who had dementia and needed a lot more time to do that. So I went out on my own, and it's been okay since then. The paychecks haven't been steady, but I haven't starved, and I really like being my own boss, uh, not having to deal with the corporate things, so and bureaucracy and all those kind of things. But it turns out even as a freelancer, you have to deal with that on the other end just to get clients. And admittedly, it was a little easier since I had 3 decades of experience and a lot of contacts. That helped. But I would say that if you are thinking of freelancing and you're at a company now, I did that all the time. I made friends everywhere I could, not without with the idea of using them, but even when I was at a private company, I had that mentality of thinking what is best for the company, not what does my boss want me to do. So that kind of mindset of if you're thinking about the product, about the goal of the project, that kind of leads you into having productive relationships with people, because you'll find people that want to get things done, and they'll remember you as someone who's more about the project than career or politics or something like that.
That's a great thing. It's the way that people remember you. So what I do is after a conference or after working with people is I connect with everyone on LinkedIn. And then they remember who you are. They may trigger it later. You might have to remind them, hey, we met at such and such event. But that's a great way to reach out to people when you start freelancing. I noticed there was actually a freelance border for LinkedIn now. Before there was, open to work, and now there's a freelancing one too. This guild that Raymond has founded is also a great way to start to get clients. One of the reasons he created it was if you didn't know where to start for client bases, you could get some clients through him, and clients could also find researchers through him as well. It goes both ways. Terry, that's great. Anyone else have anything to share about why freelancing was right for them or why it wasn't? It's not right for everybody.
I think it's a great way to get the kind of work that one wants to do. But this is in theory for me so far. In principle, I think it's probably a good way to get that kind of work. So I'm hoping to find out.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. And then let's go on to question number 2. I'm on the wrong screen again. Got too many screens open. All right. What experiences do you need to be successful in freelancing? Terry kind of talked about some of it, but I think there's more to it. So I'm going to open it back up. I'm going to still leave this question here. What are some experiences you think you would need to be good in freelance? Kim said you didn't have a lot. What do you think you're missing?
I truly have no idea.
Nope, that's a fair. That's a fair answer. You don't know because otherwise you'd go and get it. So some people would think of experience as a number of years. It could be. I've actually, if you look at my resume itself, I've only been doing UX for 5 years. When you look at just pure UX, but I feel like the experiences I've had in my past have got me to where I am. I don't use my degree, but I wouldn't be where I am today. And Kim's example of being a bartender is huge. I feel like, yeah, bartending is not a UX researcher, but you learn those skills you need to get people to open up. When you're a bartender, people tell you things that you probably didn't need to know, but they tell you things and you're there and you learn how to listen and you learn how to make people feel comfortable telling you something. And as a UX researcher, that's huge. If you can get someone to talk to you, that's half your battle. Once you get past the door of, I'm going to be a researcher, because a lot about UX research is listening to what they have to say. It's, what do you think about this? And then letting them go. So I think those experiences that we have are great. So I'd say bartending is a good experience. Now the question is, how do you spin that on a resume or on a bid or a quote to a client to say that you've got great intercommunication skills or personal skills or getting people to open up and tell you what their wedding party is going to wear next week or what their favorite dessert is or something like that. What are some other skills you guys could think of, and outside the box works too, or experiences that you have that have helped you in whatever role you are today? I know a lot of us aren't freelance, only a few of us are, but what role that you are in today, what experiences have helped you that isn't just your piece of paper from school?
I think for me, teaching helps because maybe the way we taught has something to do with it. The students formed teams, they had to find a client from our business community and they had to scope a project. So learning to scope projects kind of as a teacher, you have to supervise all of this and then seeing how they go through the project from A to Z. It was a systems analysis and design project. So for me, I think I learned a lot doing that. I don't know how, maybe other people would have gotten that supervision experience running teams within a corporation, but running multiple teams on a very strict deadline, that was really helpful experience for me.
So for me, one of the experience which I learned not through academics was to watch and observe what really people do and how we can improve that area or such kind of feature to do that one. That's not through academics which I learned, and to listen to the people, what they have to say definitely helps. So those are the two important areas which I learned through my experiences rather than through academics.
I see a new name, a couple new names on here. I just want to say hello and welcome. We're just talking about different things in freelancing and how we got to where we are for those of us that are in freelancing. If you want to unmute and let us know where you are in your career right now, that'd be great. Or what got you into freelancing if you are there, and if you're not, what makes you interested in freelancing. And then we're talking about what's right for you and the experiences you have. They don't want to speak yet. Anyone want to still talk about what experiences got them to where they are today?
I'll just throw out again. It's not my personality, but learning to take good notes, keep records.
Mhm.
That's important, not just on the financial end, but anything in the project, anything in the research event. If you're keeping track of all of it, I heard someone a long time ago said a short pencil is better than a long memory. So whether it's just use your pad and just take video, but it also comes back in for the documentation you need when you're doing invoicing, when you're doing quotes, just all those kind of things. It's been very useful, and again, it's not my nature, but no matter what job you're at, that's something to definitely start paying attention to.
I agree with that 100%. My memory's not long, so I really rely on that pencil or the notes.
I totally agree with that as well, because and putting a good amount of details in that would also help. Like if you come back after 6 months and try to do something, and you know, like you already done the first iteration and all those things, which definitely helps.
Yeah. All right. So here's the part for those who are in freelancing or have tried it and had some hardships. How hard is it? What makes it hard? I mean, I'll start with the first one for me was security. The job security. I have a steady paycheck right now as a corporate private employee. I know what my income is. I know it's going to be there. But as Terry mentioned, sometimes you need that flexibility. And with kids, I have talked to Raymond about this and getting into more freelancing because I want to have that flexibility, or with elderly parents or whatever, your own health, whatever it might be. Getting into freelance allows you to have that flexibility. You need to do you, and that's where that work-life balance comes in. So it's the security of a constant paycheck versus the flexibility. But as Terry said, he hasn't starved, so whatever he's doing is working. So, about anybody else, any other hardships, any other fears that you might have, or any hardships you've experienced? No fears? Come on, there's got to be something. I know Kim said she's had some hardships. She's already shared all her hardships there of trying to get clients and things like that. Terry's talked a little bit about it too. So those of you that haven't, what is your fear of, why have you not gotten into it yet?
And I guess my fear, I haven't really gotten into it, jumped in, but like, yeah, the instability of not having a steady income, like, I don't even know where to start. Would I go to Upwork? Like, how would I write like my little, like, I guess I would start a website maybe. I already have like a website for my portfolio, but how would I get clients? Like, selling yourself is always a little scary, putting yourself out there. Definitely, I would definitely say it's hard to like not have a steady income. Like, how long would I have to go without having a steady income? Like, I would, without having that much experience, how could I even get my first clients? Like, honestly, you know?
Yep. Some of that stuff you can get answers from Raymond's workshop. You weren't at the right at the beginning, but he does do a workshop on how to freelance. So not just, and so that's one place to get some of those answers. But yeah, it's a legit question of where do I start? Do I make a website? How do I sell myself? How do I find clients? And Raymond, if you want to do a quick spiel on what you've got to help, that'd be great.
Now, I just want to share a quick example that's one of my favorite examples of someone getting into freelancing. I mean, Afua, your concern is the primary concern of most freelancers. It's like, well, how will I get clients? Will I stay busy? Can I support myself doing freelancing? So I just want to show you the profile of someone who I met and who I just loved his story. So I'm just going to quickly tell you his story.
Yeah.
So this is a LinkedIn profile. His name is Craig Graham. And he was working for a company called Thorn, right? And he worked there for a couple of years. He was the only researcher, whereas a very small team. He worked his way up to being the research manager. But he thought the grass was greener, and he took a job at a company called Ribbon. And he transitioned over and started working for them. He was working remote now, and his manager from Thorn reached out to him and said, "Hey, would you be willing to freelance for us? You know everything about what we're doing. Could you just give us 10 hours a week? Could you just have a little time?" And he didn't want to take on that extra work because he has a couple of boys, and he didn't want to be too busy to have time with his family. Anyway, it turns out he wasn't happy with the job at Ribbon. You can see he lasted there only 2 months. So he went back to his manager at Thorn before he left Ribbon and said, "You know what? I am interested in freelancing. In fact, I'm willing to be a full-time freelancer for you." And he set up a contract with them and began, and just like that, became a freelancer, quit his job at Ribbon because he wasn't that satisfied, and now came back to Thorn. And it's just one of my favorite stories because he didn't have to do any marketing. He didn't have to do any of the freelance things you normally have to. Set up a website, do a podcast to try to get attention. He just did very good work for an employer.
Yeah.
And then when he left, they wanted him back. And he was able to kind of set up his own terms in going back. He works a 30-hour week, if I remember right, or initially, he cut down his week, gave himself more freedom, more time with his boys, but I think increased his income.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's just a quick story of sometimes it can be a cinch. The key for him, of course, was being very valuable to his current employer.
Yeah.
So when he moved on, they just wanted him back and his skills back.
Thank you. Do you know exactly how he was valuable? Like, do you have any like specific metrics, like what he did for the company or like anything like that? Or
No.
no?
No. But he was either a researcher of one, or maybe the team grew when he was there over the couple of years that he was there. So
Yeah.
really, he was just, I think, making up the role, helping them figure out how to, get closer to their customers and learn what their
Yeah.
needs were. And so he just had all this domain knowledge, which of course anyone does when
Yeah.
you worked at a company for a couple of years. And
Ever-
nobody else, no other freelancer could approach his value to them because of
Yeah.
everything he knew.
Yeah,
So that's your huge advantage with with your current employer.
definitely.
I've heard that success in other fields as well, not just in UX, but in freelancing in general, is you are so valuable to that company and you know their systems, you know how they operate. They know you, they know each
Mhm.
other's work ethics, that sometimes you got to find that right role though, where they're going to want you. Especially it works best when you're one or two in a team versus a bunch.
Yeah, that makes sense. My friend Mark does Shopify websites and he kind of has some close relationships and he doesn't really have a website or portfolio. He just works like in like little companies in Santa Barbara and he just like meets them just going out in Santa Barbara and like that's kind of how he networks. So that makes sense.
I just want to add real quick. I came from the auto industry and it's definitely more old school. They're not going to be looking on the web at websites to find people. But the thing that helps is conferences, or similar events. So maybe for your field, it's not a conference per se, but events, especially where you can get an opportunity to speak or present or something like that. Even if it costs you money, it's worth it. Mutual friend for Susan and I, Larry Smythe, I actually hired him. He was a freelancer at the time, and I saw him speak at a conference and really impressed me and talked to someone who knew him. And we had something that came up, and I thought, this guy would be good for that. So it's more, even if it's not going to lead to an immediate thing, but your name, so that when some executive that comes up, I have an idea, who do I reach to do that? That's the opportunity with some of these old line companies, is to get there. And of course, once we hired him, he did good work. We, kept doing that. But that first one, a lot of times it's not, the executive doesn't have a list or say, hey, find me a freelancer for this. It's more they have some project, some idea that they know they can't do it internally, but it's the industry may not be all that friendly towards freelancing. But if you've made an impression on them somehow, some way, somewhere, they'll still contact you.
It's good. Reem, I see your hands up too. Did you have something to ask or share?
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, it's something to ask, and wondering. So I've been on the advisory board for the learning management system at the university where I've been doing my PhD, and they seem to need someone to do UX, and they're just starting to realize this. But I don't know how to kind of shape it into something that might pay, because usually there's a lot of kind of volunteering or giving this type of service. Professors who are on the board are not compensated for this sort of thing. They're getting, it's part of their service to the university. But me being a PhD student, and I'm done now, I see that perhaps they need some help. They don't know what they're really doing, and that not sure what to ask for when they're looking for this type of help. And so, but I'm not sure how to sell myself. I guess that's the trick, is how do I sell myself for this type of role?
And that's where you find the right way to word your resume. So for Kim's example is wording how the bartending can turn into communication skills. So what can you do with what your experiences are that would benefit them? So you know what your experiences are, you know what they need. How can you word it to match? Not lying, not going to say that the makeup fields or degrees that you don't have or makeup skills you don't have, but take the skills you do have and try to show that this is what I have and this is what you need, and they match.
Right. But first they'd have to recognize the need and
Yes.
I guess create some sort of
Position or a spot.
opportunity.
Yeah. Create that opportunity, like you said. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Explore that a little bit.
No, that's great though. All right. So the next one's pretty much related. Is it worth it? So this is a lot of hard work. We've all talked about how hard it is to get into it and what needs to happen. Terry, you're the only one who's doing freelance now. And you said you're not starving, but is it worth it? Has it gotten you what you wanted? Was your goal met of being able to help your father and everything else?
Yes, it did. And with that, I think I'm realizing I always did have that kind of mentality of liking to work for myself and take projects, to completion. So it's working out. I'm not starving, but I did make adjustments to, long-term planning and stuff like that, to accommodate. And so when I do better, that's then expectations, that's good. But I've set myself up so that it's not, I'm on the edge. I have to go back to work for someone else and close down the business. So some of that, just being comfortable with the lifestyle change, it can be critical. Unless you're already independently wealthy, then why aren't you freelancing already?
Yeah, not many of us are. No.
Yeah, I would not go back just because in spite of the uncertainty, the freedom is just worth it to me, and still getting to do exciting, fun projects.
Yeah. Any of the other people that have been on the call, anyone else in freelance now? Is it worth it to you? There's a couple people that joined later that I wasn't sure if what their experiences were. Do not see them unmuting, so I'm going to just continue with questions, but feel free to interrupt if you've got something to share. I realize I didn't put this back up, but the next question is, what are the advantages? So we talked about what's hard, I think we kind of talked about this at the same time we talked about what's hard, but any advantages we missed other than being your own boss and having the flexibility? I know some people make more in the long run. Raymond's friend was saying that his contact is actually making more in the long run. But anything else? Before some of you jumped on, we talked about working from anywhere. So right now, with a lot of us working from home still, or having that option too, some of us can work from anywhere, but not everyone. When I was at Hyundai, they actually didn't want us to because they'd have to file taxes in whatever state you were working in. But with freelance, you could work from anywhere. I know many people during the pandemic went and worked in their lake house, or they went and worked from Florida, or Italy. I've had some people that are in Italy for vacation, or I can get my work done.
Here's an advantage I've heard, Susan, that when you're outside the company, a lot of times you're free of a lot of the politics, the meetings, the administrative, a lot of times you can just focus more on the work that you like to do. And so sometimes freelancing can let you do more of the work you love, have less of those obligations that a full-time employee would have.
That's true. You can do the things you enjoy, not the bureaucracy and the paperwork that you also have to do at a corporation.
There are different things that are hard, finding the clients, finding the jobs, but one thing that can be better is when you get them, sometimes it's just simpler to be a freelancer, to be on the outside, to just conduct the research, present the findings.
And then some people I've also talked to said, once you get established in it, those clients come back, and then you have that steady income. You've got a couple that are coming back that you can count on, and then you're just filling in the gaps in between. Maybe you'll get successful enough, you're turning people away, and you get to pick which clients, and then you get to work on those projects that are really a passion to you. You're not just working on any project. You're working, I really love medical devices, or I really love automotive. Let's work on those things.
Great point. Yes. As you work your way up as a freelancer, you have more of that control.
Okay, and to be conscious of time, I am just going to jump to this next slide here of upcoming sessions, potential future topics. I was going to use some time to discuss them, but we had some great conversation. And I know that some of us haven't had dinner yet, some of us had, and you've got other evening plans. So I'm just going to ask you guys to fill out the survey that Raymond has already put into the chat. So just scroll up a little bit. And please click that link. If you've got a couple minutes now, that'd be great. I know things get forgotten. But if you could just tell us some of your topics that you'd like to talk about. I just threw some up here. One of the ones that we seem to talk a lot about today was hurdles that we've had to overcome. This first one that I knew was going to be an issue or a concern. How to get into freelancing, just getting past that brick wall, how to break that wall down brick by brick. If that's something we want to talk about, I'd be glad to. Work-life balance, pros and cons, anything else you want to talk about, please put that on that survey. Any feedback you have for me, that would be great. And hopefully I'll see some of or all of you back in November. And if you have time to stay on, you're more than welcome to, but if you need to go, I understand. So if you want to chit chat.
I'm not seeing on the chat, I'm not seeing the link.
Oh, let me repaste it then. Let's see. Or I don't know, Janine, do you have it handy? Oh, I found it.
All right. Okay.
All right. Can you see that now?
Yes.
All right, I think you may have joined just after he sent the link, and apparently you can't see previous conversation
Gotcha.
if you, because I think it was one of the first ones, so. Well, there you go, for everyone who may have joined a minute or two late and missed the link. But thank you all for the conversation. I really appreciate it. I hope you found it beneficial, and I hope we can come back. So what I'll do with the topics that are on the survey, I'll look through them, and if there's one that repeats a lot, we'll definitely do that. And if there's a couple, we'll just try to line those up in upcoming sessions in an order that makes sense.
Thanks.
All right.
All right, thank you all.